last speaker, Mr. Amjad Hossein Panahi, Kurdish human rights activist. He will speak about political prisoners condemned to death. I also greet all of you. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Human rights, and especially the issues concerning political prisoners is a vast issue, and we will need a big opportunity to speak about this. Iran has become the biggest prison in all times for all opponents of the regime. I will read part of the report. I think I won't be able even to read a third of it. We are in the headquarters of the UN in Geneva. We all try to speak about the cases of violations of human rights in Iran. The right to life is the most essential life that cannot, the human right that cannot be taken. It's true that the human civilization used to eliminate individuals to preserve social order, but this has decreased throughout history, and we have reached now the conclusion that we should even preserve the life of those who have caused social troubles. So liberal people and political activists are not only criminals, but they are heroes, and their efforts should be recognized. The representatives of power who want to actually to form obedient people, they continue repression and torture. In such systems, no human values or even religious beliefs cannot stop the bloodthirsty power. In the past 35 years, the Islamic Republic justice system has always used the execution of opponents of the regime so that to keep calm and quiet in the country. All the efforts of civil institutions have tried to decrease the pressure on political prisoners, but the support of civil society has played an important role in decreasing pressure on political prisoners. But unfortunately, the pressure has gone up in the past years, in recent years. I especially work on human rights activists, especially Kurdish political prisoners. So please let me talk more about this. Now in Iran, most political prisoners are Kurdish prisoners. More than 300 political prisoners on political charges or for having done journalistic activities are in prison. More than 90% are religious activists, Sunni activists are in prison. More than 40 are condemned to death. More than 22 human rights activists and several journalists are among them are condemned to death. And these sentences have been confirmed in the Supreme Court without respecting the fair trial standards. Unfortunately, they are awaiting the execution of the sentence. Ill prisoners have not received medical care. It has been used as a pressure tool. More than 50 Kurdish political prisoners need immediate medical care. I should mention Ali Afshari, Ali Moradi, Afshin Sohrabzadeh, Karim Musazadeh, and several more activists who are in Iranian prisons. Not only they are not receiving medical care, they have been threatened by the prison authorities, and they have been put under pressure. Ali Afshari condemned to death his political prisoners because of infection that has been a consequence of torture. He has more than 30% of his body is infected, and one of his arms is completely paralyzed, and he has not received any medical care. Leave has been granted in the past months to certain political prisoners, especially the reformist prisoners, because of this they have tried in this way to decrease the pressure from international fora on the Islamic Republic, but many of the Kurdish or Baluchi prisoners, they have not had the right to any leave or even a visit by their families. Kurdish activists have never the request for amnesty or leave have never been accepted. Actually, we are nearing Nowruz. The lawyers and most of the families of the prisoners have asked that they be granted leave to spend these days of Nowruz beside their families, but unfortunately all these requests have been rejected for Kurdish prisoners. There were a few cases that they were supposed to be granted leave. Actually, the bail was so high that no family could afford actually obtaining the leave. Now more than 50 political prisoners in the Iranian prisons have never had been granted a leave, and some of them have not even had visits from their families. The situation of justice and trials in Kurdish areas have been different. Actually, the sentences were issued in the intelligence bureaus, and it was only read in the courtroom. The 22 persons who are condemned to death in Kurdish areas, they have passed only 3 to 5 minutes in the court. The sentence has been sent from the intelligence officers, and it has been only read in the court. They have been intensively tortured. The regime is trying to stop cultural activities in all the peripheral regions in Iran. The pressure on cultural activists in Kurdish areas have increased. During all this time, many well-known Kurdish activists have been called to the intelligence offices. For example, Simin Chaichi, Adnan Hasanpour is a Kurdish journalist who have been in prison for more than 7 years. Without any trial, he has been exiled to Zabul prison and then to Zahedan prison. It's been less than 1 year that Kordbur brothers have been sentenced, have got their exile sentence and imprisonment sentence, and it has been confirmed in the Supreme Court. The pressure on Mr. Kabudwand, who was in charge of Kurdistan Human Rights Organization, he is very ill. He has several diseases. He is in prison. He is under high pressure, and his family has been also under pressure and threatened. The regime makes up cases against these activists to suppress cultural activities. They are sent to prisons in Minab and Abbas, and they are deprived of any contacts with outside world and with their families. Most of Kurdish political prisoners who have been condemned after the election of Rouhani, they have got very heavy sentences and they have been exiled to areas outside Kurdistan. In the past 6 months, those who have been charged and the trial has been unfair and they have been sent to exile in the furthest possible points in Iran. Under Rouhani, Shirkuh Ma'arifi was executed. He was actually the sentence was broken in the Supreme Court according to his lawyers and his family. The process was problematic. Shirkuh Ma'arifi was not supposed to be executed, but because the intelligence institutions requested that he be executed, he was executed without the presence of his lawyer and without giving any information to his family. He was executed at 6 o'clock in the morning one day. I can't finish my report because I have no time. I just have one request. And I transmit to you the request of the Kurdish activists and the families of prisoners to do all those who hear our voice. We are asking for justice. We want their retrial. They are innocent. They have been arrested, and while they were innocent, they have been condemned to death despite their innocence. And they are in prison in the worst possible conditions. This is a request on the part of all families of all political prisoners. They want their children to be tried in fair courts with the presence of defense lawyers. As a representative of human rights organizations in Kurdistan and on the part of families of political prisoners, I ask the international community to intervene urgently because their lives are threatened. And as the number of activists who are condemned to death increases, the intelligence and security agencies of Islamic Republic, they really want to kill all of these activists. We are in sensitive times, and it's important your intervention to prevent further tragedies. Thank